Hello, good evening, and welcome back. So, Dr. Tedros is at it again. This time, he decides to criticize the wealthy countries for stockpiling COVID-19 vaccines as poor countries go without. Now, bear in mind, this is the same Dr. Tedros that is head of the UN, of course. He is the UN chief. And he was also the UN chief when it came to the start of the COVID-19 outbreak, which means he is the same UN chief that was there at the time in charge of the UN, or the World Health Organization, when Taiwan was saying, hey, there seems to be some human-to-human transmission of this coronavirus, and China, of course, saying, no. What do they know? They're Chinese Taipei, after all. They don't know what they're talking about. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And Dr. Tedros here, World Health Organization, going with, yeah, let's believe mainland China, because they're clearly not lying, because when have communists ever lied? When have they ever resulted in 72 million deaths from just one despot leader of Mao Zedong with a great leap forward? That clearly never happened. So yeah, let's believe him, and let's just focus on their words, not their actions, not the fact that they are buying up PPE from around the world and telling their businesses to buy up the PPE, whether that be face masks or gloves or antiseptic gel from around the world that they had already shipped out in order to ensure that they had enough for their own country. Let's ignore all of that and just go with what they're saying. Because, that's got to be true. They're definitely not lying. There was no reason Xi Jinping would be lying in order to protect his own country. Except, of course, all of that is true. That's a shame. So when it comes to this, after having absolutely no criticism whatsoever when it comes to the way Xi Jinping handled the outbreak, because, of course, he decided, so let's stop flights from Wuhan to the rest of the country to make sure the rest of the country isn't infected. Let us lock and even weld people inside their own homes to ensure that the infection doesn't spread. But let us continue international travel to other countries around the world so that they can get infected. Meanwhile, we will buy up all the PPE that we can to ensure that our country is well protected. They decided to ignore all that. All of that entirely. And then now when it comes to the vaccines, because would you Adam and Eve it, the more developed countries, the Western nations, actually have better scientific research than the Chinese. Yeah, what a shocker. Then when it comes to vaccinations, it's like, well, we seem to be doing things better. So now that the West is in a stronger position, because sure, we were left behind when it came to the coof, but now that we're in a stronger position, we got some vaccines here, and we're looking to protect our own citizens. They're saying, yeah, well, you're Western, and you're not paying me a bribe, so we're going to criticize you. Yeah. It wasn't your fault that it came out in the first place, and there was nothing you could have done to stop it coming out of China. Obviously, you could have stopped it coming into your own country, but at that point, we would have branded you racist. But now that you got vaccines, give them out to other people. Yeah, you do that. And personally, I don't think that we even need a vaccine, and I don't think that the COVID-19 virus is an issue in and of itself. But for those that do, obviously the vaccine is a big deal, and Britain seems to be doing all right when it comes to vaccinations. The cost of that for the future, for us taxpayers and our children and our grandchildren, I'm sure they'll be paid off ad infinitum, just like when it comes to paying reparations for slavery or to the US for their World War II involvement. I'm sure it'll be a similar situation where it'll take about 70 years to pay it all off, if not over a century. So yeah, we'll be our children, grandchildren, and maybe even more. But nonetheless, for the time being, hey, the labs are there, the research is there, the scientists are able and willing, and it seems like we got something worthwhile. When it comes to the efficacy of the vaccines, that's a whole other issue. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is more so the hypocrisy. To say, when it's the Chinese doing something wrong, then they don't care. The World Health Organization doesn't give a shit. But when it comes to the UK and US showing their prowess, if they're not sharing it around, then there's a problem. And it's like, well, okay, Okay. Hold your horses there, Tedros. Just hang on a cotton picking moment there, fella. Because, would you like to just have a guess? Have a little gander. Have a little frolic into the unknown as to perhaps a proposition as to why the Western countries are doing a little bit better when it comes to technological advancements than the East. Considering that East Asians seem to have higher IQ scores, seem to be getting into universities and scoring higher on the SATs than the indigenous white folk, whether they be English or US. So they seem to be smarter fellas. So why is it that the West seems to be superior when it comes to technological developments? Maybe this is more down to ideology than genetics, perhaps. This is down to being ever so slightly more capitalistic, as in suggesting that you've worked hard on something. You put in your blood, tears, sweat, your effort, your claret into trying to make something work, and maybe, just maybe, you should be rewarded for it. And perhaps people understand that there are incentives there for their effort. It tends to actually incentivize them in order to put in a little bit more effort than they do in other countries, which are so-called communist, whether that be the Chinese Communist Party or otherwise, and of course then they have to be coordinated with the government in a fascistic, which is very true to the sense of fascistic ideology. And instead, of course, they don't put in quite so much effort. They'd rather go with the put in just enough effort to not get fired, and of course they'll get paid enough to just not quit. And that's about it. That seems to be the reluctant equilibrium that they have reached in such places. But for the rest of us, when they actually reward human excellence and performance, then you get better results. Yeah, who would have thought it? That if you acknowledge human nature and go along with it, you get better results, because you're working with humans. It's great. It's beautiful. It is a lovely thing to see. And that's what we're seeing across the world now. So yeah, sure, China can try to fuck us up by not having very good controls on their virus research. And even when they do, even when they have the head start on other countries, even when they decide to try and screw us all over in order to protect themselves, it seems like the rest of us go, alright, well that's a bit shit, isn't it? You're a bit of a cunt for doing that. But alright, let's see what we can do. Well, we'll keep ourselves protected. Okay, cool. Yeah. And obviously the governments in the West seem to be a little bit too authoritarian for my liking, but nonetheless, we'll skip over that for the point of this video. And go, yeah, cool. So we're going to find a cure for this. We're going to find a vaccine for this. We're going to make sure it's not a problem. And then we're going to be fine. How about you then, China? You old China. You seem to have screwed yourself over. You've even got a head start, but it doesn't seem to be doing you very much good. Maybe you got some second thoughts on that. Maybe, you shouldn't put something out into the world that is going to infect or affect the entire globe if it's also going to affect you. On top of that, if you can't find a fix to it quicker than the rest of the globe can, even though you've had 3 to 6 months advantage, it's really not worth the risk, is it? And yeah, of course, the World Health Organization has to keep on continuing to push the CCP line. And they have to say, yeah, you guys that now have the vaccines, yeah, you put in all the hard work. You were the ones that made the fucking stupid decisions in order to let the virus escape from the lab, which is the official reason, and we're not including the bloody, it came in on frozen meat. Yeah, fuck off, she. But, yeah, we're going to go with that. That, oh yeah, you successful countries, you guys who actually appreciate what humans do and acknowledge them and appreciate them and incentivize them and reward them for all their hard work and effort and attainment, yeah, you're not doing enough for other countries. Well, how about this World Health Organization? And I will say this in closing, that surely the point of the World Health Organization is to ensure that the world's health is organised. In order to say that if one country has a problem, it shouldn't be a problem for the rest of the world. And yet, despite the World Health Organization being in existence, one country had a problem, and now it's a global pandemic. So I think the World Health Organization kind of punted the ball on this one. I really missed a trick. And therefore, they're no longer fit for purpose. If they were in the first place, that's down for debate. But they really failed on this one. And so if they're trying to come in after the fact and say, yeah, so we really fucked up, but now that you guys have done a better job than we've done, we'd like to get in on it and tell you how to do your job. It's like, well, no, not at all. You can fuck off. You failed in the first place. You got no idea what you're doing. Now that we know what we're doing, you're trying to tell us what to do. Well, you got no fucking clue. So leave us alone. If you think you know what's best for the world, then go do that with the rest of the world and see how that turns out. Because we already know, don't we? Yeah. And while you're at it, dealing with the rest of the world, please take Professor Neil Ferguson with you. We don't fucking want him. He's full of shit. His predictions are way out by up to a factor of 1 million. So I think he'll fit right in with you guys. So off you go. I'm sure you've got a place in sub-Saharan Africa that'll welcome him pleasantly. He's white after all, and we all know that all cultures are beautiful. But that's it from me. So let me know what you guys think down below in terms of the World Health Organization. Like, why on earth are we still with them? Like, really? I understand that fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. But at this point, isn't it like, we've been let down a few too many times, and it's about time we go, cool, I do like the idea. A World Health Organization is a lovely idea. And there are parts of sub-Saharan Africa with polio that could do with being dealt with, same as in India. Maybe not with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where more of them end up with polio caused by the vaccinations, and then they plead guilty to forceful sterilization. But other than that, I'm sure it's a lovely idea. Maybe when it comes to malaria, given that is the number one killer of humans of all time, that is a nice idea. But as it stands, seeing as you're bought off by China, you're not quite fit for purpose. Whether you think, no, Wasp, I mean, come on now. This is just one time. They're fine other than this. They've made a mistake, as everybody does. Let it go. And they know what's best because they're supposed to be impartial. So let's keep it going. Either way, let me know down below. Always intrigued, curious how to say. And of course, until next time, as always, have a good one.